Hello everyone. The story I'm going to share today is the virtuous businessman Fan Li. Fan Li was born in Chu State in 536 BC. He was a famous politician, military strategist, and economist during the end of spring and autumn period. He was also an ancestor of abandoning politics for commerce in Chinese history. Fan Li came from a poor family, yet he enjoyed studying when he was a child. When he grew up, his profound knowledge made him well known in the state of Chu. But according to the law made by Chu State, that those who were not nobles could not be officials. Thus, in 496 BC, Fan Li and his friend Wenzhong together went to the Yue State. They were granted high-level advisors in the royal court and helped King Yue to engage in combat with the Yue State. Soon after arriving in the state of Yue, Goujian, the king of Yue, ignored their advices and went to war with Yue State, only to be beaten and surrounded. In the midst of crisis, Fan Li devised a strategy that saved his life. After being defeated by the King Fu, Goujian was resolved by pursuing vengeance. Lying on the prayer every night, he licked a gallbladder dangling from the house beam. The bitterness reminded him of the humiliation he had suffered in the Yue State. Later, Fan Li collaborated with Wenzhong to devise 9 strategies for combating Wu, finally assisting the king of Yue in defeating Wu, and Goujian seized the power of the overlord. Goujian would never have overthrown King Wu without the help of Fan Li and Wenzhong, as history has shown. After Fan Li assisted Goujian in destroying the state of Wu, the state of Yue prospered. That was clearly the time for Fan Li to be promoted to high-ranking official. But why did he flee the state of Yue in fear of his life? Before leaving, Fan Li told his companion Wenzhong, "When the birds are gone, the good bows are hidden. When the small rabbits die, the hunting dogs will be killed. This means that after all the birds have been hunted, the bows used to hunt the birds will be collected, and after all the rabbits have been hunted, the hunting dog will be killed." King Goujian is a narrow-minded man. He can keep himself from sharing difficulties with us while he is in trouble. He will no longer tolerate once his objective has been realized. He will be very fast. People like him are incapable of sharing his wealth and honor. Let's get out of Yue State as soon as possible. Upon hearing this, Wenzhong thought Fan Li was too careful and cautious, so Fan Li had to depart alone. Just as Fan Li prophesied, soon after he left, Wenzhong was killed by Goujian. Fan Li had predicted his death, not just because of his intelligence, but also because he was Lao's disciple, and was affected by his indisputable thought. He eventually realized that King Yue did not want peace. Instead, he only wanted struggle. Finally, his family, as well as some of his followers, moved to Chu State and settled down in an area near the sea. The people in Chu State were wealthy. Fan Li changed his name to Chu Yizipi and began farming. He also raised chickens and pigs. Within a few years, he owned several 100,000 acres of land. He later decided to become a businessman. When he did business, he placed loyalty and trust first. He carefully studied which kinds of goods were needed and when people needed them. He always placed people's needs first before profit. At one point, He learned that Chaohu area needed good horses. He knew that it was not difficult to buy horses in the north, and that it would be profitable. The problem was how to transport the horses to the Wu and Yue states. The distance was more than 1,000 miles, and the horses had to have places to rest on the way. Besides the eating and boarding expenses, the most difficult issue was robbers, who were very prevalent during that time. So what to do? Finally knew a well-known businessman named Jiang Zidun in the north. He often sent linens to the businessman in the area of Chaohu. Jiang Zidun also often sent linens to the south. In order to guarantee that transportation went smoothly, he gave money to all the rich and powerful people on the way. So finally had a poster placed on the gate of Jiang Zidun city. The poster said, "Businessman Fanli's newly established horse team can help you transport goods to the area of Chaohu for free." As expected, Jiang Zidun contacted Fanli and asked to help him move large quantity of linens to the south. Fanli agreed. Thus, he came with Jiang Zidun, and all the horses smoothly arrived in Chaohu. Nearly 100 horses were sold in a very short time. Another time, Fanli did business in Shanglou, where bronzeware was invented. At that time, officials and common people all felt that having bronzeware was a luxury. Fanli learned that it was in high demand in the nearby Chu State. He thought, since bronzeware is valuable and rare, if I can bring Shanglou's bronzeware to the Chu State, it will be profitable. Thus, Fanli went to Shanglou to purchase bronzeware and then sell it in the Yue State. To show his status, he had business character Shang printed on ox cart and also had it engraved into a bronzeware. When he arrived in Qi's capital Xianyang, the local people saw the character for business on the cart. It was also on the exquisitely carved bronzeware, which gleamed brightly. Thus they happily called out, "The businessman is here! The businessman is here!" All Fanli's bronze items were quickly sold. The character Shang has been used by people to refer to business ever since. Fanli was honest and upright when he conducted business. He emphasized quality for low prices rather than making high profit at someone's expense. He never artificially raised his price when selling and never bargained. He sold goods as soon as he bought them instead of holding them and waiting for the prices to increase. Later, Fanli moved to the town called Lotus and White Spring, which was near Nancy River. Soon, he and his family dug more than 30 ditches. Each one was about 30 yards long and 1.5 yards wide. The depth was about 1/3 yard. When the ditches were ready, he filled them with soft dry grass and started to raise termites. When the termites matured, he sent his chickens to the ditches. The chickens grew very fat and laid more eggs. In spring, when some families had little grain, he went door to door and distributed his eggs. Fanli's capability and kindness were highly appreciated by the Qi people. The king invited him to Linzhi, the capital city of Chu State, to ask him to be prime minister. He agreed, but 3 years later, he resigned. One day, he said, "I started out as an official, but now I am a prime minister. I started out as a businessman, but now I'm a millionaire. I started out with nothing, but now I have everything. I've already reached the highest point. However, enjoying both fame and wealth for a long time is not good. So he resigned his position and returned to the prime minister's cell to the king of Qi and gave away all his property. Fondly placed honesty and integrity over profit when it came to business. His integrity set a high standard for future generations of business leaders. Tales of his adventures have been passed down from generation to generation for over 2,500 years. Thank you very much for listening to the story. More touching stories will be ready for you if you just subscribe it. Thank you again.